If you have ever lost a loved one, this episode is for you. And if you have ever felt that someone who is grieving is doing too much, this conversation is also for you. Pull a chair and maybe a handkerchief or some tissue. There is something about grief that has always puzzled me. It's one of the few things every human being will experience. It doesn't matter where you're from, what language you speak, how much money you have, what you believe, or what title sits next to your name. At some point, grief will find all of us. And yet, for something so universal, grief is incredibly personal. Two people can lose the same person and experience that loss in completely different ways. A husband and wife can lose the same child. Three siblings can lose the same parent. An entire country can mourn the same leader. Yet no two people will carry that loss exactly the same way. One person cries every day. Another never sheds a tear. One can't stop talking about the person they've lost. Another avoids the subject entirely. One goes back to work the next morning. Another struggles to get out of bed. And when we see those differences, we often make assumptions. We wonder if someone is grieving too much or not enough, too loudly or too quietly, too long or not long enough. But maybe we're asking the wrong question. Maybe the question isn't, why aren't they grieving properly? Maybe the question is, who decided what grief is supposed to look like in the first place? Because the truth is, grief rarely looks the way people expect. Most of us recognize grief when we can see it. The tears, the sadness, the funeral, the public displays of pain. But grief isn't always visible. Sometimes the deepest heartbreak leaves no outward sign at all. Psychologists have spent decades studying loss, and one thing they've discovered is that people process grief in remarkably different ways. Some people wear their pain on the outside. Others carry it quietly within. Some become emotional. Others become practical. Some need to be surrounded by family and friends. Others need space and solitude. Neither response means they loved more. Neither response means they loved less. A person can look calm and collected while falling apart inside. And someone else can openly express every emotion they feel and still begin healing sooner than anyone expected. Human beings are complicated, and grief reflects that complexity. Imagine two brothers standing beside their father's grave. One is crying uncontrollably. The other stands silently, barely showing emotion. Most people would probably assume the first brother loved his father more. But what if the second brother spent years caring for him through a long illness? What if he began grieving long before death ever arrived? What if he was raised to keep his emotions private? What if his tears come months later when nobody is around to see them? That's the thing about grief. It doesn't always follow the schedule we expect. Sometimes it arrives immediately. Sometimes it arrives months later. Sometimes it comes in waves. And sometimes it sneaks up on us when we least expect it. A song playing on the radio. An old photograph hidden in a drawer. A favorite meal. An empty chair at the dinner table. A phone number still saved in your contacts. And suddenly, a memory opens a door you thought had been closed. And the grief comes rushing back. What's even more fascinating is that grief looks different across cultures too. In some parts of the world, mourning is deeply communal. People cry openly. Families gather. Stories are shared. The burden of loss is carried together. In other cultures, grief is much quieter. People are expected to remain composed. Pain is carried privately. Strength is often expressed through silence. Neither approach is wrong. They're simply different ways people have learned to navigate one of life's most difficult experiences. Anthropologists studying mourning traditions have documented hundreds of different customs around the world. Some cultures wear black, others wear white. Some celebrate life with music, singing, and dancing. Others observe periods of quiet reflection. Some funerals last for days. Others last only a few hours. These differences reveal something important. Human beings have never agreed on one correct way to grieve, because grief itself refuses to fit into a single box. One of the biggest misunderstandings about grief is the belief that it follows a predictable path. People often talk about the stages of grief as though everyone moves through the same emotional checkpoints in the same order. Real life isn't that tidy. Human emotions don't work like train stations. You don't simply arrive at one stop and then move neatly to the next. Someone may feel acceptance today and anger tomorrow. They may laugh with family in the afternoon and cry alone that same night. They may feel peace one moment and regret the next. And all of that can be completely normal, because grief often holds emotions that seem to contradict one another. Love and anger, relief and sadness, hope and despair, gratitude and regret. The human heart has an incredible capacity to hold all of those feelings at the same time. Research has also shown that the relationship we had with the person who died shapes the way we grieve. Losing a loving parent is different from losing an estranged parent. Losing a spouse is different from losing a friend. And the loss of a child creates a kind of grief that many people struggle to put into words. Even among similar relationships, every experience is unique. Some people grieve the person they've lost. Others grieve the future they imagined. Some mourn conversations that never happened. Some mourn apologies never given. Some mourn dreams that will never come true. This is why comparing grief is so difficult. We're not just mourning people. We're mourning possibilities. We're mourning routines. We're mourning identities. We're mourning chapters of life that ended before we were ready. A widow may grieve her husband, but she may also grieve the anniversaries they'll never celebrate, the trips they'll never take, the conversations they'll never have, the comfort of having someone who knew her story better than anyone else. A young adult grieving a parent may be mourning future moments that parent will never witness. A graduation, a wedding, the birth of a child. Different losses leave different wounds, and different wounds heal differently. Personality plays a role too. Some people naturally express what they feel. Others naturally keep things to themselves. Some process emotions through conversation. Others process them through reflection. Some write. Some pray. Some create art. Some bury themselves in work. Some lean heavily on family. Some prefer solitude. Most of those tendencies existed long before grief arrived. Grief doesn't always change who we are. Sometimes it simply reveals more of who we've always been. Social media has added another layer to grief in modern life. For most of human history, mourning happened within families and communities. Today, it often unfolds in front of an audience. People post tributes, share memories, upload photographs, write heartfelt messages. And with that visibility comes pressure. Some people feel obligated to share their grief publicly. Others are criticized for doing so. Some are judged for moving on too quickly. Others are judged for holding on too long. Yet the deepest parts of grief remain invisible. No photograph can fully capture longing. No post can fully express absence. No public tribute can reveal everything happening inside a grieving heart. Perhaps that's why one of the most important truths about grief is this. Every grief story is also a love story. Not because grief proves love, but because loss reveals how much someone mattered. Behind every funeral is a relationship. Behind every tear is a connection. Behind every memory is evidence that a life touched another life. And because relationships are different, grief is different too. No two friendships are exactly alike. No two marriages are exactly alike. No two parent-child relationships are exactly alike. So why would grief ever be exactly the same? The next time you encounter someone who is grieving, remember this: you may only be seeing a small part of their story. The person who looks strong may be struggling in private. The person who seems unaffected may be carrying tremendous pain. The person who laughs may still be hurting. The person who cries years later may still be carrying a loss that never fully left them. Human beings are far more complex than they appear, and grief may be one of the clearest reminders of that truth. In the end, grief teaches us something profound about human nature. We all experience loss, but we experience it through the lens of our personalities, relationships, memories, cultures, beliefs, and life experiences. That's why grief cannot be measured by tears. It cannot be ranked. It cannot be compared. And it certainly cannot be standardized. Because every loss tells a different story. And every story leaves a different mark. Perhaps the lesson is not learning what grief should look like. Perhaps the lesson is accepting that grief has never worn a single face, and it never will. The next time you see someone mourning, remember this: you are not simply witnessing grief. You are witnessing one person's unique response to love, loss, memory, and meaning. And no two human hearts will ever tell that story in exactly the same way. Grief is not evidence of weakness. It is evidence that something or someone mattered.